Firstly, my background is in financial services. I've been a chairman of a bank, sat in some 48 odd countries, and I've been a Londoner for 20 years. My children grew up here and they went to universities here. And I find since the time I left one of the sort of best jobs in the world, London has changed. It's no longer the safe city it used to be. The opportunities have fallen, and people are looking over their shoulder whether they should be wearing, if they're wearing a nice watch, or if they're wearing a nice jacket, or they're carrying their phones in their hand. They're fearful. Somebody will take it away. Knife crime is rampant. You may not believe it. 21 teenagers lost their lives last year. 18 of them were to knife crime, 2 to gunshot and 1 got run over. It's not a safe city anymore. People are, if you will, there are 270 odd nations whose diaspora live here. And these communities are broken. They become insular because they're not getting original affordable housing. They are, because if you don't know you're going to live in a certain community for too long, the youth are not getting engaged. And so I want to bring back that mojo back for London. And if you may not be aware, this is the most congested city in the world. 156 hours are lost by an average driver just moving around and stuck in congestion. Now, what that means is you're polluting the air, but an average driver is also losing about 1,375 pounds each when they're stuck in this sort of traffic. So that's firstly polluting the air. Then you'll be surprised, this is also the slowest city in the air. In other words, the traffic is moving so slowly, according to Tom, the experts on this, that you'd be surprised. When you're moving around, you'll sometimes find cyclists buzzing by faster. Now, against that, whilst Mr. Khan, the current incumbent, has brought London to its knees, it's come to a standstill. It's as if he doesn't want London to prosper. So people are leaving London, opportunities are getting lesser, and he's not rolled up his sleeves and led London as a champion would. And as I want to run like a CEO, I want to make sure, I want to see visible policing. You don't see the police anywhere, so there is no deterrent for somebody to commit the sort of things I was talking about. So there's no silver bullet I'm offering. I have ideas. I want to work with the communities. I want to make sure we make London the thriving city it was, with the opportunities so that everybody's smiling again. So I want visible policing. I want some of those police stations where, crime is increasing. I want those police stations open. I also want a segmented approach. So there can't be a one size fit all. So if there's knife crime, and there can be homicide, women, I want separate cells tackling different sorts of crime so that there's expertise that goes into policing. Yeah. And I want what you might call a league table of policemen. So if I'm on the beat, Mr. X, and I'm the policeman on the ground, I want to make sure I'm comparing you with other policemen. Why is crime rising in your area? Why haven't you sought the help? What can we do to make it better? Otherwise, well, if you're not performing, you know what happens in the business world. Similarly, on affordable housing, I want to speak with the councils. I want engagement with the local people so they have a say. So that this is affecting the well-being and mental well-being, and people are not happy because of all this. So once you have a thriving place, a thriving city, people also prosper, right? And at the same time, I want to make it the most digitally connected city. I want to make sure innovation thrives here. So if you look at the startup and it's pretty robust startups ecosystem here, but you want to make it more robust. Still about 60% of venture capital is coming from the US. I want to make more homegrown funds. I want to make it a greener city. So you need more trees planted. You want to make sure you make use of more brownfield land. And so at the end of the day, this city, which is still ranked as the best city in the world, but think what? Most congested city, slow-moving city. It used to have over 24 Fortune 500 companies headquarters based in London. They have now fallen because people have moved elsewhere. Now only 9 or 10 of them are left. So that is impacting. So the growth is being impacted. Investment. Mr. Khan has excuses for everybody. So he said the government is not giving me the money, but this city is contributing majorly to the GDP. So I'm not going to take those excuses. I will go to the central government, national government, and they're going to give us the money. But this is London, our city, your city, my city. We wanted to make it the safest city where people don't have to look over the shoulder, but they can move around freely, where traffic moves in a more sensible fashion. I'm also going to look at the congestion charge. So congestion charge is impacting people over the weekends and holidays. So I want to make sure I look at that and abolish congestion charge over the weekends and holidays. I'm going to look at the 20-mile-per-hour limits, because unless it's close to a hospital or a school, that speed limit is no good. So I'm going to increase that back to 30. And then you have the low traffic neighborhoods. So you're actually diverting traffic from one area to the other, which means you're polluting the air again. So basically, if you look at it, this is the oldest transportation system as far as undergrounds are concerned. Now, it's creaking a bit. You need to invest. Now, if you talk to somebody who's taking the central line, let's say, and going towards bank and all that, it's services are not good. They're not working because there are delays in trains. So you want to make sure things work efficiently and effectively for all. A lot of people use buses. You'll suddenly find 2 buses coming at the same time. You want to make sure everything works for the people. And Mr. Khan is not doing that. Everything he says, look, the national government is not giving money. There are over 34,000 policemen, right? The Met Police, and over 10,000 of them in the administration duties. I want them on the beat, on the ground, visible. There's no deterrent. Nobody sees the police anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, London will become the most thriving city if we all work together. We bring about change. I'm an independent. I'm not a politician. Politicians are blurring the vision for London as we speak. They're not doing the thing for London. We need to bring about transformational change. I'm the candidate. I have the experience as a banker. I've run large corporate budgets larger than the 21 odd billion sterling budget that London has. So I've run businesses much larger. I've dealt with similar projects globally. I have dealt with policing in some parts. And so I didn't start and become a chairman overnight and start in 48 boards. I started in a very humble way. I started selling ketchup bottles in India. So ketchup, obviously you have competition. So you had brands that were global brands. To make myself competitive, I would pick up the dirty ketchup bottles for refilling. And if you've ever seen a ketchup bottle, it doesn't remain that bright red tomato color. It becomes dark and dusty, and it becomes black. Pick it up so that it will be cleaned up. And then I started calling on doors, selling manual typewriters, word processors, lighting systems, going in all sorts of local buses, rickshaws, tangas, hand-driven carts and all that. So when you've seen hardship, you've gone about the hard way, you understand what it makes to make the lives of those 2.2 million people. Yes, there are 2.2 million people living in poverty in London. So 1 in nearly every 4 individuals living in London, and 33% of them are children. So you've got to change their lives. You'll be surprised, that's a huge number. And my family has a background of 3 centuries of public service, 19th, 20th, and 21st century. We have been doing public service. We co-founded the 2nd largest bank in India. We gave Lahore, which is now in Pakistan, its electricity. We gave India its first agricultural minister, when India, the undivided India, Punjab. So we've been involved in public service. I've been doing that over the years with whichever work I do globally, and I want to continue that. Thank you for that opportunity. So I've been living in London for 20 years. I've lived across continents. So I started in India, moved to Hong Kong before the British were still there. So before the Chinese took over. So I was there before and after the handover. Those days, I used to run credit and risk for 15 countries. And so that would have meant aircraft financing one day, huge lines of credit, $500 million. Because if a country manager could sign off, then it wouldn't come to me. So that's why I said I've run larger budgets than what Mr. Khan's budgets are here. And then I ran operations for 14 countries where the bank had a strategic plan. So you made sure the country's annual plans dovetail into the strategic plan. That is why I understand strategy. I understand planning. Because don't forget, banks help cities run, because you provide for businesses, the economy. So I understand what it takes. I've run teams. I understand cultures because I've lived in so many. So from Hong Kong, I went to Thailand as a senior vice president for HSBC. And then I went to Qatar as a number 2 in the Middle East. Then I came to London. I coincidentally ran the branches 20 odd years ago in Southall. And then I headed a $40 billion premier banking business. I headed HSBC Premier. I was also head of the HSBC International Bank. So I've run, and then I was deputy chairman of a bank overseas in Africa. And in between, I was CEO for India's largest asset management company globally, where I had offices all over the world. So I have done whatever it takes for financial service. I've done more than most people. I've been fortunate to learn from some of the best people. I'm still learning, but I've been fortunate to handle whatever it takes in terms of financial services. Sat on over 48 boards. I still sit on some regulated boards. And in the UK, I sit on some regulated boards, but I'm also a strategic advisor to the Global Cyber Alliance, because cyber risk is pretty real. I'm a former deputy chair, but the longest serving committee member for the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry for Asian businesses are concerned. I've sat on the board of the world's largest not-for-profit that fosters entrepreneurship, the Indus Entrepreneurs, TIE, as it's commonly known. I'm also co-founder and co-chair of India's largest startup foundation, where Prime Minister Modi, Honorable Modi ji, inaugurated the venue. And we had participation from 11 countries, 11,000 odd startups participated. And I've been doing a lot of work for the next generation. You'll be surprised, I've created a global brand called the 21st Century Icon Awards. Now, this is not for profit. It's been going for 7 years, where finalists and winners have come from 44 countries to date. So these are individuals below 50 years of age who need nurturing, fostering, they need funds, they need all sorts of things. And now some of them have become global names. So I do a lot of work which has got nothing to do with money, but doing good in the world. So that's where my family has taught me values of humility, integrity, honesty, hard work, and making sure you take people along. So I would request all Londoners to join me in this journey, support me. We must change what is going on today for ourselves. It's an excellent question. So firstly, I believe in a concept called Vasudeva Kutumbakam, one world, one family. And what that basically means is, doesn't matter where somebody comes from, the world is one family. We can only be successful to take people along with us. So somebody who has that sort of a thought process is critical to do seva, as you correctly said. And seva is not something which you do for return. You do for others without expecting anything in return. And I tend to do that on a daily basis. You know, you bring a smile on somebody's face, that gives you encouragement. So if you look at one of my strap lines for London is bring back the smile for all Londoners, because Londoners have lost their smile. Now, it may, some of them are worried about the cost of living crisis. Some of them may be worried about crime. Some of them may be worried when their daughter or son goes out, whether, you know, they could be harmed or something may happen to them. So I'm looking to make sure I do one good deed every day. You know, whether it's smiling at somebody, whether it's opening the door for somebody, offering somebody a seat in the tube or a bus, that sort of thing is also seva. But on a wider sort of aspect, given that you have opportunity to reach out to a wider spectrum of people, I try and help, as I said, startups, even scale-ups. So globally, I help them in terms of, sometimes they don't need the money, sometimes just a bit of mentoring. They need some advice. Sometimes your phone call is the only phone call somebody is waiting for, or your message. So make sure you respond to everybody. That is also a form of seva, where a young student somewhere is just wanting to touch base with you. Sometimes they don't want anything. They just want to speak with you because they can't speak the same thing at home. And indeed, as I said, through these awards, the 21st Century Icon Awards, it's again not for profit. And that's why 3 members from the House of Lords, the Lord Mayor, and several others are involved with this as on the panel of judges. I don't decide the winners, they do. And so that is again a form of seva, where you make sure you help others foster them, nurture them, give back to society. And that's what I've been taught at home. And that's why the family has recognition. My father himself was one of the senior most civil servants. He's about 90 and still does a lot of good in terms of he helps farmers selflessly in several states in India where organic farming was just a buzzword. He was telling them how to increase productivity and do things. So that is inculcated in my sort of, I try and live and breathe that every day. When I initially started, people said, hey, if you don't belong to one of the two parties, you don't have a chance, it's an uphill task. And I would tell them, look, I got strong legs, I'll climb that hill. And as the process has been ongoing, I didn't have social media handles until a month and a half. Now I have tens of thousands of followers. And if you go on LinkedIn, I get blessings, encouragement, strength from people who write comments, whether it's the chairman of one of the largest banks in the world, or it's just somebody sitting somewhere in a little village in India or any other part of the world. They're reaching out to me worldwide. That's giving me a lot of strength. So I think I can beat, and I will beat Mr. Sadiq Khan on May the 2nd and become the next mayor of London. But I've got many things to do as we speak. I want to make sure I take the communities along, as I hinted earlier. There are over 270 nations whose diaspora live here. And I want to make sure I do good for everybody because they need opportunity. The youth needs something to look forward to so they have a bright future. We need to make it a safe city where people don't have to worry about what's going to come next. We want to make London moving again, so it's not come to a standstill as it is currently today. And I want to make sure the communities work together and sing from the same hymn sheet. And I want to champion London because there's certain things you have direct power over as a mayor. There's certain things you can be a strong voice for. So for students, for instance, higher education, people come here, but they're also struggling. A lot of student visas, for instance, are not being granted, particularly from India and other places. I want to be a strong voice. It's not everybody's crossing, coming here in a boat. They want to come here legitimately. They pay their fees. We want to give them a chance. So that's another issue. Hospitality is another place because if you want to get people coming in to work at a restaurant at a certain level, the minimum salaries have gone up. So I want to be a strong voice for students, for the hospitality industry, for the nightlife in London. People are scared. So I want to make sure it becomes the same buzzing city, thriving city. The mojo is back for Londoners. So that's why I think there is so much scope. And my campaign is picking up steam with different communities. I go to churches, I go to mosques, I go to temples and the synagogues, and people are coming together, and we've still got time. So I look forward to support from all Londoners, and they give me a lot of strength to go on and win this. Thank you so much for that question. I think it's my parents. So my father, I've looked up to him all my life, and he's taught me several things which I still try and imbibe and sort of follow. But it's my mother who, unfortunately, is not so well. She's in hospital as we speak, in the ICU. But when she could recognize me, and when I told her that I'm trying to do something like the family has done over centuries, she gave me her Ashirwad, the blessings. And that means a lot to me. So she's always inspired us, kept us together. She was a homemaker. She never worked elsewhere, but and myself and my two sisters were always loved by her and enjoyed her cooking. And I hope she gets well soon. And so she's been a source of strength and inspiration, but her blessings mean a lot to me. So I'm pretty certain that will carry me through and carry me through to become the next mayor of London.